I clearly remember the way the sunlight hit the dashboard of the car that afternoon. It was a bright day, the kind that usually makes people feel happy and full of life. But as my wife, Olivia, looked over at me, I felt a million miles away. She saw the expression on my face, and she started to laugh. It was not a mean or angry laugh, but it was a kind of laugh that showed she did not truly see how much I was hurting inside. She looked at me for a long time, her eyes bright with a sort of playful mischief, like we were sharing a secret joke that I just didn't understand. Then she asked me a question that changed everything. She asked, "Are you jealous?" I took a deep breath and looked her right in the eyes. I did not feel the heat of anger anymore. That fire had gone out. Instead, I just felt a deep, quiet sense of being finished. I smiled just a little bit and said, "No, I am just done." She rolled her eyes at me like she always did, probably thinking that I was just being moody and that I would never actually leave her side. She had no idea in that moment that those 5 simple words were the very last thing we would ever say to each other as a married couple. Before I tell you the rest of the story, I want to say that if you have ever felt like a ghost in your own home, please know that you are not alone. We are a group of caring experts who want to share these stories, so we can all feel a little less alone in this big world. We would love to hear your thoughts and your own stories about your life journey. 2. My name is Nathan Reed. I am 37 years old, and I work as an accountant. In my line of work, everything is about balance and things making sense. You have to make sure the numbers match up perfectly on both sides of the page. I always believed that a marriage worked in the same way. It needs a quiet and strong foundation of respect to keep standing tall. My wife, Olivia, is 34. She worked as an event coordinator, which meant she was always busy making sure everyone else was happy and having a good time. We had been married for 7 years. Like every other couple in the world, we had our little arguments, but I always truly believed we were on the same team. That feeling of being a team started to change when Olivia became very close to a man at her office named Chris. At first, it did not seem like anything to worry about. She would talk about him while we were eating our dinner. She would laugh at the funny stories he told at the office. She kept telling me that he was just a friend, and I wanted to believe her. I trusted her, because that is what you do for the person you love. But then, very slowly, the way things worked between us began to shift into something else. Chris started calling her after the workday was over. Olivia would get a big, bright smile on her face every single time his name popped up on her phone screen. She started going to work events on the weekends more and more often. Whenever I asked her simple questions about her day, she would get upset with me. She would tell me that I was overthinking things, or that I was imagining problems that were not really there. I wanted to trust her with all my heart, but it is very hard to keep trusting someone when they stop being open and honest with you. One Saturday afternoon, we went to a picnic for her company. They told everyone to bring their husbands and wives. Chris was there, too. The very moment Olivia saw him, she walked right past me without even thinking about it and gave him a big hug. They spent almost the entire afternoon talking only to each other. Every time I tried to join in and be part of the conversation, Chris would find a sneaky way to pull her attention back to him. I noticed several of her co-workers looking at us with strange, uncomfortable faces. Even I could tell that something was very wrong in that moment. On the drive back home, I finally worked up the courage to ask her a question. I asked, "Do you think you have been spending a bit too much time with Chris lately?" She just laughed at me. "Are you serious?" she asked. I told her I was asking, because it was really starting to bother my heart. She just smirked at me and looked back at the road. "Are you jealous?" she asked again. For a few seconds, I just stared out the window at the passing green trees and the blue sky. Then I quietly answered, "No." She smiled like she had won a big prize in a game. I turned back to her and said, "I am just done." Her smile disappeared instantly. "What does that even mean?" she asked. I told her it meant I was tired of having to fight for her attention in my own marriage. She just laughed again. "Oh, come on," she said. "You are being so dramatic." She thought we would just forget all about this by the time the sun came up the next day. But I already knew in my heart that there would not be another morning where I would let myself be treated like I was just an option. The rest of the drive home was very quiet. Olivia kept looking over at me, waiting for me to say I was sorry for being upset. I did not say a single word. When we got inside, I changed my clothes and sat down in the living room. She walked in a little while later and asked, "So, are you done sulking yet?" I looked up from the book I was trying to read. I told her I was not sulking. She asked what my problem was. I closed my book and told her that my problem was not Chris. She folded her arms across her chest and looked at me with a frown. I told her that my problem was that every time I tried to tell her that something was hurting my feelings, she would laugh at me instead of listening. Her face changed a little bit when I said that. She said she was just joking, but I told her I was not. She looked away, and for the first time in a long time, she did not have anything quick to say. That Monday, I went to talk to a lawyer who helps families. I was not doing it because I was angry. I just wanted to understand what my life might look like next. After we talked for a while, he asked me if I thought my wife was having an affair. I told him the truth. I did not know for sure, but I did know that my marriage had stopped feeling like a partnership. He nodded and told me that sometimes that feeling is all you need to know that things are over. That evening, Olivia came home with a big smile. She told me to guess who got a promotion. I asked if it was Chris. She laughed and said yes. She told me they all went out to celebrate her friend's win. I just nodded my head. I asked her why she did not think to invite me to come along. She said it was just for people who worked there. I looked at her very calmly and reminded her that the picnic was for people who worked there, too. She rolled her eyes and told me I was still stuck on that old news. I did not fight with her. I just got up and went into my office to be alone. The next weekend, Olivia left early for what she called a team-building trip. Later that day, a friend sent me a picture on my phone. It showed Olivia, Chris, and some other people at a resort by a beautiful lake. Most of the people were together near the food area, but Olivia and Chris were not with them. They were sitting all by themselves on the very end of a wooden dock, laughing together. There was nothing in the picture that proved she was cheating, but confirmed everything I had been feeling for months. Her heart and her energy were somewhere else. When she finally came home that night, she asked if everything was okay. I looked at her for a long time. Then I put a white envelope from my lawyer on the table. Her smile went away. She asked what it was. I told her to open it. Her hands were shaking as she read the papers. When she saw the word divorce, her face went pale. She asked if I was really ending our marriage over one person from her office. I stayed calm. I told her I was ending it because she had ignored my feelings for months. She tried to say she never cheated on me. I told her I hoped that was true, but it did not change things. A marriage does not break on the day someone cheats. It breaks when people stop taking care of it and protecting it. The room was so quiet you could hear the clock ticking. She sat down and said she thought I was just being jealous. I told her I was not jealous. I was just asking to be heard. Tears started to fall down her face. She said she did not realize how much she was hurting me. I told her I knew she did not realize it, because she laughed when I tried to tell her. She put her head down and said she remembered that moment in the car. She remembered asking if I was jealous, and me saying I was done. A month later, we after meeting with the lawyers and finishing everything, we did not shout or fight. We just signed the papers. Before she left, she asked if she had actually ended the marriage a long time ago. I told her it was not just one choice, but hundreds of small ones. She closed her eyes and wished she had known that sooner. I told her I wish she had, too. Now, I am rebuilding my life. I do not care if she is with Chris or not. I realize that relationships do not always end with a big bang. Sometimes they end because one person keeps asking for respect, and the other person keeps calling a problem. I was not jealous. I was just tired of being invisible. And once respect is gone, love usually leaves. 2. I stood by the window and watched the rain start to fall against the glass. The house felt bigger and colder than it ever had before. I took a deep breath of the cool evening air and felt a sense of relief. I realized that I deserved to be with someone who cherished my heart. It was a hard lesson to learn, but it was a necessary one for my future. I decided right then to keep moving forward, one step at a time, toward a better and brighter life. I look at my life now like a new ledger with fresh, clean pages. There are no more debts of sadness, and I am finding balance in my own way. I have started to take long walks in the park, and I spend more time with friends who truly listen when I speak. I know now that my feelings matter, and I never want to be in a place where they are treated like a joke. It took a long time to get here, but the peace I feel is worth every difficult step I had to take.